It's going to be a quick review of an MP3 player that I just got from Amazon. This is a 64 gigabyte MP3 player with a clip from a company called AFU. And I didn't see many reviews out there on YouTube, so I wanted to make sure I made a video about this handy little MP3 player. But anyways, a little bit of background first. For a couple of years now, I've been using this SanDisk MP3 player, especially to work out at the gym or when running outdoors. And I know nowadays it's a little bit old school to use an actual MP3 player to listen to music, but I still like it, mainly because of the sound quality. I think it's better with an MP3 player, and you can use wired headphones with it for even better sound. And I like it also because it does have a clip, so I don't have to bring my cell phone with me. I can just put this on my shorts or on my shirt and listen to good music when I'm working out. And also another way to keep yourself from being distracted when you're out there actually doing some exercise. So I think it's a great idea to actually use an MP3 player like this one when working out. And by the way, this is the SanDisk Sports Go. I think that's the model number or the model name for this one. I think it used to be called the Clip Sports Jam or something like that. And it has worked really well. I really loved using this one. I used to use an old iPod Shuffle back in the day, and I eventually had to move on to this one because it stopped working. But anyways, this one I've been using it for a couple of years, and it still works well, but there's a few buttons that have stopped working. For example, the up button doesn't work anymore. So I've been looking for a replacement for this one to use at the gym. And I also picked up this one a while ago, and Sony may be the last high-profile brand that's still making small MP3 players like this one. This is, by the way, the NWE394. A decent MP3 player. The sound is very good, but it didn't work for my purposes because first of all, it's a little bit bigger and it doesn't have a clip. And also, I'll describe this a little bit later in the review, but this one doesn't have the ability of using playlists. So I'll talk more about that later in the video. But anyways, this is going to be a review of the AFU 64 gigabyte MP3 player with a clip. AFU, as you might know, is essentially a no-brand name of MP3 players. It came with this just generic plain box from Amazon, and by the way, you can get this one for about $34 right now. And when I got it, they had a coupon for about $5 off, so you can get it for less than 30 bucks. So a really good deal for this MP3 player. And I've only used this one once so far, but I think I'm ready to give you my initial review. And if my review changes eventually, I may do an update video on this Clip MP3 player. It also came in with these headphones, which are crap, as you may have predicted. Initially they looked pretty good because they had the same shape of the old school kind of like Apple headphones, but they sound terrible. These ones are going straight to the trash. Do yourself a favor and buy yourself good headphones like this ones from Sony. You can get these ones for really cheap. I think $7 or $8 on Amazon or on Target. Get good headphones for your MP3 player. It also came in with a little user manual, which was not very helpful, honestly. In fact, I had a couple of things wrong about the actual MP3 player, which we'll talk about that later in the video. So, and by the way, one more thing. SanDisk stopped making this Sports Go Clip MP3 players a few months ago, so you cannot find a new one of these ones on Amazon anymore. So that's why I went with this one, the AFU 64 gigabyte MP3 player. Features: 64 gigabytes of internal memory, really good, much more than you get from this SanDisk. I think this one only had 8, and this Sony only has, I think, 16. So much more internal memory. And another thing that this one has that the other ones don't is this little slot for a micro SD card, which you can add up to 128 gigabytes of more content into your MP3 player. And by the way, I put this little sticker or this piece of electrical tape here on the side because I don't want any moisture to enter into that empty slot for the SD card, because I don't plan to use that SD card. I think the 64 gigabyte is way more than I actually plan to use this for, so 64 gigabytes to me is more than enough. And one more thing, you can have a maximum of 4,000 songs in this MP3 player. Doesn't matter how much actual capacity you have on your SD card. Just one thing to note. Another thing, this one does have USB-C connection here in the bottom. It does come with the charger for it, with USB-C and USB-C-A in the other side, so you can transfer your songs and charge it. And I think the USB-C here is only for show because the transfer speeds are actually really slow. I think it may be like micro USB level speeds when transferring your songs from your computer into your MP3 player. It does come with the headphones as well, I already mentioned before. It also has Bluetooth, so you can actually use it with your wired headphones right here in the top, or you can connect it to a pair of earbuds or Bluetooth earbuds wirelessly. I don't like Bluetooth headphones, so I don't plan to use that feature. I do own a pair of headphones which I tried connecting to this MP3 player and it works fine. The volume though is a little bit lower than using the wired connections, and we'll talk more about that later in the video. It does play all music formats, or most music formats, MP3 and WAV, and among other MP3 formats or digital music formats, with the exception of FLAC lossless files. And I did try playing a lossless file in one of my playlists here. I think it was, let me see if I can find it here, so you can see what happens when you try playing one. Bear with me just a second. I think it was this one right here. It's a Radiohead track. But if you try playing that one, it will say file format not supported. I still love listening to FM radio, and this one has something really clever, which once you connect your pair of headphones, wired headphones, to the MP3 player, it will use the headphones or the wire from the headphones as an antenna to get the reception for FM radio. And it works really well. So if you try playing it or using the FM radio in the MP3 player without the headphones, it will tell you that you cannot do it. You have to actually connect the headphones, and then you actually can go into the actual to connect to a specific radio station. So there you go. So now it works. So the folder feature is the one that you're going to be using to load your playlists. And I think this is the biggest advantage in using this kind of MP3 players, is that you can actually load your own playlists into them. And you can also load some ebooks to read some books, which again, I don't know why you would want to read an ebook in this small screen. You can load your music. You can also load some pictures. I haven't tried loading any pictures. Same as the ebook, I don't know why you would want to watch pictures in that small screen. And you can also, I actually don't know what the system volume information is all about. I haven't tried that yet. I may put that in the comments. But anyways, biggest thing about this one is you can add your own playlists, and it's super easy to use the playlist in this folder setting, folder feature. So you just plug it into your computer, and the easiest way that I figured out to add playlists in the right order is to use iTunes. And it's kind of funny because the manual specifically says somewhere in here that you cannot use iTunes. I don't remember exactly where it was in the manual, but it says that iTunes is not compatible, which is not true. It actually works even better with iTunes to load your playlist into your folder setting. It works perfectly because it keeps the right order of the songs that you want to be played in the playlist in that folder. So you just drag them or copy paste your tracks from the iTunes playlist into your folder, and you're set. That's all you have to do, and it works perfectly. That's one thing that this guy right here could not do. I tried everything to have this Sony MP3 player to play my playlist in the specific order that I wanted. It would not do it. It would just play them in alphabetical order. Deal breaker for me. This one did not work for me because of that. So I decided not to use this one. I still kept it because the sound quality is actually really good in this one. The volume is great, and I can use it for something else. But this one did not work for me to replace my old SanDisk Sports Go. And this one did work with the playlists, by the way. A couple of other features in this MP3 players, you can also use it as a recorder. I haven't tried using that either, and I'm not sure if this actually has an internal microphone, to be honest. But you do have the option of recording something. Again, you can use to read ebooks, and there's a couple of samples in here, so you can see how it looks. I'm not sure why or how you're gonna end up reading a whole book using this small screen, but I guess if you don't have a cell phone, or if you're out there in the woods and you have no other option, it might be a good idea. But anyways, you can also load some ebooks in there, and there are your settings. You can change the language, you can change display, you can also add a sleep timer or set the sleep timer for the device to go to sleep, change the power management, change the date, and some information, and format the device. You can also go back to factory settings if you like. Also has a stopwatch, a gallery for, I guess, your pictures, and it did come in with a couple of sample photos which look like something out of Windows XP or something, or maybe Windows 2000. Anyways, I guess it's nice to have, but I don't plan to use it. Something really handy, especially if you don't bring your cell phone to your runs or to your workouts, is to have a calendar. So something at least a little bit useful. And you can also go to your music and play all the tracks that you have downloaded or loaded into your MP3 player. And by the way, the loading of the music into your MP3 player works perfectly on both Mac and Windows. All you do is connect your MP3 player to your computer and drag the files from your computer into the MP3 player, and the music will be saved according to the artist's name and the albums and the genres, if you have them tagged in your MP3. The playlist here in this setting of the MP3 player is actually not great. It only has 3 playlists, and you can only set them in the MP3 player itself. So you actually have to go to the song and say add to this playlist 1, add it to playlist 2, add it to playlist 3. Not very useful. Like I said before, the best way to listen to playlists in the right order is to use the folder feature that I showed you earlier. Here's where you connect to the Bluetooth. It works okay. And back to the FM radio. So those are all the settings in the MP3 player. So a couple of tips for using this one, and like I mentioned before, I've used this one only once before, but I think I can give you some quick tips. Like I said before, use iTunes to build your playlists as you want. I think that was the biggest thing for me, and use the folder setting here to actually listen to your music, because to your playlist, because the other playlist feature only gives you 3 playlists to use. This one almost gives you unlimited ones, because you can just add an unlimited amount of folders into your playlist folder. So you just go to music and add whatever playlist folder you want to call it, and add your songs in there using iTunes. Again, you must use iTunes, or I guess now it's called Apple Music, whatever. Another tip that I also wanted to suggest was to turn off the screensaver, and I'll tell you why. So to do that, you'll go to Settings, and then you'll go to, I think it's Display Settings, and then you'll go to Screensaver, and right now I have it set up to none. So if you have the screensaver set to digital clock, eventually if you turn off or the MP3 player, or if it goes into sleep mode, it will do this. If you try to turn it back on, it will go to this kind of like a screensaver mode. So if you want to change the track on the go, if you're listening to a specific song, if you want to skip it, you're going to have to do an extra click of the button. So you're going to have to go to the button, play it again, and then again to change the track. If you don't want to do that, you just turn off that screensaver, and that's what it helped me. Another tip: use good headphones. So I saw some reviews online on Amazon of some people saying that the sound quality on this MP3 player is really bad. And I will say it's not as good as my Sony, and it's not as good as the SanDisk when it comes to the sound quality, but it's actually pretty decent. The sound quality is good, but you have to use some real headphones. Don't use the ones that came in with the MP3 player. Just spend the extra $8 on some good pair of wired headphones from Sony or from whatever, and you'll get some better sound quality for sure. Another tip that I mentioned before, make sure that you cover the SD card slot, just to make sure that you don't get any kind of rain or any kind of moisture into it, and avoid it just to try to make it last as much as possible, I guess, because especially for a cheap device like this one, you know that it's not going to work, it's not going to last forever. I might as well have it work as much as possible. All right, a couple of drawbacks on this MP3 player. Because even though I do think it's a good replacement for the SanDisk Clip MP3 player, definitely it's not perfect. One thing is this clip. It is definitely a little bit slimmer, and it does seem a little bit fragile. If there is a weak spot in this, physically on this MP3 player, it's definitely this clip. It does seem like there's something that it may eventually break, so just be careful with the clip. It's definitely not as good as this one from SanDisk. And the second and last drawback on this MP3 player is for sure the volume. And this may or may not be a deal breaker for you. It wasn't for me because I do plan to still use this one, but I will say that the volume in this MP3 player is very low. Initially, I was a little bit surprised because I was playing it indoors in a quiet setting at the lower volumes, and it sounded actually pretty good, maybe like around 10 or 15 or something like that. And by the way, it goes all the way up to 31 in the volume levels. So I was saying, oh, it sounds actually pretty decent at even at 19 or 20, but after 20, and by the way, it gives you this little message saying, don't play music too loud, like as a warning. But the difference between, let's say, 20 all the way to the maximum volume, it is not that different. The increments in volume levels are very minimal between, let's say, 20 to 31. So if you are out there in a noisy gym or outdoors where there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of noise, the sound level may not be as loud as you may want it to be. And I like it to be loud, especially because you're working out, you want to be pumped up with the music. So the volume was a little bit disappointing in that, and in this MP3 player. What helps is to use, again, wired headphones, and make sure that you use good wired headphones, because I think that the volume is better with wired headphones compared to the Bluetooth headphones. So those are the only two drawbacks that I've seen so far on this MP3 player. Otherwise, I do recommend this Clip MP3 player as a replacement for the better brand of MP3 players from SanDisk. I think it is a decent alternative, definitely better than some of the other ones that I've seen from no brand names on Amazon that has some really awful reviews. So I think I'm going to be using this one for quite a bit longer. And again, I just started using this one, so I don't know how long it's going to last. And if something happens for some reason, I'm going to do an updated review on this MP3 player. And I'm going to leave a link to this product on Amazon in the description. As usual, it's going to be an Amazon affiliate link, so in case you want to buy it, use the link. It definitely supports the channel at no additional cost to you. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions about this little MP3 player. Definitely an interesting product, especially nowadays where they don't make that many of these kind of products anymore. Let me know if you still listen to MP3 players, or if you still listen to MP3s using MP3 players like this one. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye.